I'm like, what were you thinking? What was going on behind the scenes where you chose that word?
Hello everyone, my name is Jason Ramirez and welcome to the Season 3 finale of the Hit List Podcast, a podcast where me and a guest cross off films from our watch list by watching them. I'm joined today by Lena Volkova, aka Loki-licious. She's a cosplayer, a model, an actress, and a chaos gremlin. Welcome, Lena. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here on the season finale.
Lena, before we get started, I have two important questions for you.
Sure.
So number one, can you tell me about your streaming viewing habits? Whenever you sit down to watch a movie, do you watch something new or do you stick to your favorites?
It's a little bit of both, so it just depends on my moods. There are some days where I just want to watch something that I know that I'm very familiar with, and it's just a comfort thing. They said that's actually pretty common with people with like ADHD and anxiety. So frame of reference, I have ADHD and anxiety, so hence the chaos gremlin. And they say that it's a nice comforting feeling to watch something that you're very familiar with. So there are some days where I just need that. And there are other days where I'm just like, oh, I haven't seen the new thing. I need to see the new thing because they won't shut up about the new thing. And I don't want to be left behind.
Right.
And I want to be able to talk to them about stuff.
Yeah, I get that.
Or, there's just stuff. I'm just like, oh, that's cool. I'll watch that.
So thing is, I watched No Way Home on opening day because I didn't want to be spoiled.
Ooh.
Unfortunately, I'd seen the leaks involuntarily. Like, all the leaks I saw on Twitter were against my own will.
Oh, no.
So I kind of knew what the movie was going to be about before even seeing it. So I was like, you know what? Why did I even go see it anyway? I spent $20 on this ticket to watch it in 3D. Yeah, and these big old glasses are too big for the 3D glasses. But, it's fine. I get all the memes, like, immediately.
Nice.
My second question is, what's your favorite way to get in some exercise?
I'm sitting here laughing because it's like I've taken 2 weeks off of like just not doing anything. So my favorite exercise is actually figure skating. So I'm a figure skater. It's one of the things that I still do. Actually, I'm a competitive adult figure skater, which is an entirely different bracket than like the people you see on the Olympics. Mm-hmm. So the people you see on the Olympics tend to be like under the age of like 22, 25. They're younger. They do have some competitors that are like older in their 30s, but the adult skaters are like, we're over 18. We don't want to be in the Olympics. We just want to do the thing and not embarrass ourselves. So I do that, and that's a lot of fun. So I'm usually at the rink about like 3-4 times a week at least, and then whatever things I need to do off ice so I can do things on ice and not hurt myself. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
That's really cool. I don't really know a lot of figure skaters, and whenever I see people, it's like, wow, that looks so amazing. And whenever I try to do it, I'm like, oh, wait, hold up. I forgot how to balance myself.
It's okay. There's actually a number of us in the cosplay community, at least in DC, which is nice.
Really?
Well, it kind of goes hand in hand because for a lot of the people that grew up skating, you've got the costumes and you have to be able to like make them because like the really pretty costumes you see on TV, those are custom made. So if you want something like that, you got to make it yourself or pay someone thousands of dollars for that. Mm-hmm. And so you learn a lot about like how to jewel things, how to bedazzle things, how to do things that won't fall apart. Because if your costume starts falling apart on the ice, you get point deductions because you could literally hurt someone badly with your gemstones. Mm. And so, you learn a lot of things just to be functional and to do that sport, which is really nice because it's like, not shitting on any other sports. You don't really see that like in basketball where you've got this guy with like this bedazzled uniform. I mean, you could.
I would like to see that.
I would love to see that. I think LA would be like great for that like big blinged out Lakers thing.
Yeah. That should be a thing. We should make that a thing. 2022, bedazzled basketball.
There we go.
So let's get on to the two films for today. So we'll be discussing The VelociPastor, directed by Brendan Steer, and Backdraft, directed by Ron Howard. Two very different films. That's my favorite theme about this podcast. The combinations are so different sometimes, and I just love it. Season 1, we had an episode with one of my really good friends. She chose Moonlight, and I chose Starship Troopers.
Nice.
Yeah, very interesting conversation. And then episode 1 of this season with Sophia, I chose Memories of Murder, and she chose Boogie Nights. And this is like another favorite combination of mine, The VelociPastor and Backdraft.
But you've got one that is just so intentionally bad, and one that's, an Academy Award nominee film. But it does have one very tying thing between the two films that was completely unintentional. Parents die within the first 5 minutes.
You're right.
Not a spoiler, because Backdraft has been out since 1991, so... In VelociPastor, they say it as part of their promotion, so... Not a spoiler.
I didn't see that, honestly. I didn't even... I even, rewatched a little bit of Backdraft last night, and I'm like, I forgot that Kurt Russell died within the first 5 minutes, and then he comes back later on as Kurt Russell, the son.
Right?
All right, so The VelociPastor is a 2017 American comedy horror film written directed by Brendan Steer. The plot follows Pastor Doug Jones, who becomes infected by an artifact, resulting in him turning into a velociraptor when he becomes angry. This film was on Lena's list. Lena, why was this movie on your list?
So one of the fun things that tends to happen is people will see things and they're like, oh my god, you have to see this movie. This is amazing. You would love this. Because a lot of the things that I do, particularly in social media, is I like to talk about very ridiculous, nonsensical things. Mm-hmm. I just find things funny. And so I'll just post some random nonsense and then people are just like, oh, that's great. Random nonsense. Hey, I know this random nonsense movie that you would just love and you really, really need to watch it. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll see it, whatever. And I've got like this love-hate with B-movies. Like, I love them, but also I'm just like, oh, why did I put myself through this? This is horrible. And I've got to be like in the right mood for them. So for this one, I've been kicking that can down the road. And then somebody brought it back to my attention last year during the start of quarantine. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll check it out. But then I kept forgetting. And then I want to say June of this year, it was brought to my attention again. And they were like, you have to see this. I don't understand why you didn't see this. And like with tears in their eyes, like really serious about me seeing this movie. And I was just like, oh, okay, will you calm down? I'll see it, please. Well, like, I don't know if they're like really into the whole dinosaur thing or, because I mean, apparently there's like dinosaur erotica that exists and it's like good for you, not gonna kink shame. But like, they were just really just into it. I'm like, okay, I'll see it. Just calm. So finally saw it. Yay, you're welcome. Now we can all talk about it.
For those of you who don't know, this movie is, like you said, it's intentionally bad, but in a good way, that in a part that like celebrates B-movies.
Yeah.
It's not like the Sharknado. Like, even the director said he doesn't want to be compared to Sharknado because he thinks that they're more about making fun of B-movies, and he's more about, like, with this movie, he's more celebrating the tone of those movies because he loves B-movies.
Oh, yeah.
The term for this type of movie is called grindhouse, and I'm going to put a definition here. Y'all going to start learning words in this podcast now. So, grindhouse. So, it's a noun, and it's also an adjective. So it's a noun slang for a movie theater with inexpensive admission pricing that shows low-budget films one after another throughout the day and all or most of the night. And as an adjective, it's of or related to the low-budget films shown in these theaters as exploitation films or B-movies. So, little history lesson right there.
Yeah, they were big in the 70s. Yeah, a lot of the modern filmmakers were like all about it, like Tarantino, Kevin Smith. A number of them were just like, grindhouse movies are the best.
Also, Robert Rodriguez, he even made a movie called Grindhouse.
Absolutely.
So I want to ask you, what you think of the movie? Like, overall, what did you think?
So, I actually really liked it. So it's ridiculous, and you have to go in with the mindset that this movie does not take itself seriously. If you're trying to find something that is like very serious and deals with subject matter in a very delicate way and all of that very, very heavy stuff, this is not the movie for you. But if you just want to go in and just have fun and just be like, what am I watching? For like a good hour and a half, this is a good movie for you. I would totally recommend a drinking game to this movie, just for all the reasons. One of those movies where you just drink and you can just get, shwasted. It'll be great. Fun for some of the family.
Yeah. So the director even said, like, he's a filmmaker, he's a film student, he went to, like, art school, and he's big fans of, like, what's his name, Ingmar Bergman, or whatever.
Yes.
And he wanted to have some meaning behind it, like, when he first made, like, the concepts of it, like, the concept trailer for it, for a project, and then when he got popularity with it, he was trying to see, like, what else can I say about the Catholic Church? And he was, like, really having trouble writing it. And then he's like, you know what if I just forget about that and just make it the most ridiculous thing ever? And that's when he's like, you know what? Yeah, this is going to be a fun movie to make. And I agree with you. I was coming into this cautious because I don't like watching bad movies. This one I like because I can tell that they know how to make a good movie and just break all the rules because they know how the rules are broken to make a bad movie, if that makes sense. And I appreciated it for that.
Oh, absolutely. One thing I thought that was really interesting is I actually found the backstage casting ad for this. I was just like, whoa.
Oh, really?
Whoa, what is this? Yeah, so one of the fun things as an actor, you get access to these things. And let me bring it up. Because I was trying to look up and see where they were filming because, part of the movie has them go to China. And I'm using that in quotey fingers.
And Korea.
In Korea. And I'm like, China looks a lot like the East Coast. And
exactly.
It was filmed in Pennsylvania. Oh. And so that makes sense. So it was actually filmed in Philly. So I was like, okay, so I get casting calls from from here all the way down to Richmond and as far up north as New York. So they were looking for people in Philadelphia and New York, and they were filming over 4 days in 2016. Here it goes. Pay was $100 a day. Shot 4 days in Philadelphia. And they basically weren't really particular about who they were going to hire. They were just hiring pretty much whoever to fill the roles. They were looking for whoever just to fill the roles, and they're just like, yeah, come do this, and blah, blah, blah. It's non-union. So I was just like, okay, cool. And they were totally upfront about what it was. They're just like, it's about this movie where a priest becomes like a velociraptor and just have fun. Okay, cool. Versus some of the other things that you see on Backstage. They're just like, it's for this project. It might be about this. We're not sure.
That's amazing. Like, wow. I never considered looking at Backstage for like the casting calls, but thank you for bringing that up. That's an interesting tidbit.
Yeah, of course.
What roles? Is it like background roles or main roles?
All of them. That was the beautiful part. All of them? It was all of them. It wasn't even like a, come be an extra or a background or whatever. It was like all the roles. I'm like, yes, I like this. This is hilarious and amazing, and because you never really see like a casting call for like anything where they want like, because usually they have like the principals in mind, or at least the principal in mind, and this one's just like, come audition, be a part of my movie, yay! And I'm like, I want more movies like that. That's fun, because you're gonna have a good time, or you're gonna have like 18-hour days and be miserable, but either way,
As long as they finish it.
As long as they finish it and release it. That's the part I'm just like, release the damn movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's for those of you who also don't know, we both live in the East Coast. You said DC. Yeah. I'm in Southern Maryland. How do I say this politely and in a nice way? The film community here does a great job of like making stuff. Not so great of a job of like finishing it and releasing it. Yeah. And it's not like a criticism. It's an observation. So, I'm not going to knock anyone for, not releasing things, because we all get busy. I get really busy too. And I know I've got like a bunch of projects sitting like in the hopper that I need to edit and just release. But we're all kind of do that. And oops. Yeah. Sorry. I thought, I'm relatively new. I don't really do too much in the community. I thought I would be different. But then I was like, oh, life happens.
Right, but that's like the famous last words. I'm like, I'm going to film this in a day, and then I'm going to edit this in a day, and it's going to be on YouTube the next day. 3 days, you'll see this, and it's like 2 years later, and like you're still sitting on your couch eating Cheetos, watching VelociPastor.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, that demo reel that you filmed, what about it? Where is it? Oh, right. Okay. And you just go back to eating Cheetos and watching VelociPastor.
Not too different. When I told you I was editing on like the original date we were going to record this, that project was filmed in June, and we're still editing it.
Don't feel bad.
And so I think we're very close to finishing it. I think giving it like another month, we could be done. We could be done by this. And at least it'll be before 2 years. But also, it'll be released the next year.
Nice.
It's something.
Congrats. That's amazing.
So, what was your favorite scene in the movie?
So, okay. It's kind of hard to pick. Like, the final fight scene was just... It was just a ball of awful, and I loved everything about it. I'm just like, this is what happens when you order, like, a dino costume from, like, Wish.com, or you just have, like, your friend that has an idea of what a dinosaur looks like and, like, assembles it together. That's amazing. It was just awful, but, like, the whole sexy scene was this complete art school throwback to, like, Ingmar Bergman. You know what I'm talking about, just tripping over my words. It's like this whole homage to like that whole 70s thing and whatever, and it's just like you have an idea of what's going on because whatever, and it's not overt, but you can tell that he went to art school. You can tell with, you know, the way that he did the colors, the way that he did everything, and I'm like going, oh my god, this is like the one tiny thing that he was just like, I went to art school, I'm going to show that I have a degree in this, and it's going to pay for itself, and you're welcome. And then that fast montage of everything that's happened until like that point. So just like, okay. And I think it's one of those things that, like, people within, like, the creative communities would really appreciate, whereas, like, everyone else would be like, okay, colors are pretty, that's nice, but, like, I think within the creative communities, we're just like, I get it. I get that. You're that guy. You are that guy. Okay, cool. Because we all know that guy. We know at least 3 of those guys.
Yeah. I know at least 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just like that.
Exactly. They're just like, well, I was thinking about, like, the 7th seal when I did this, and so I had to do a throwback to that. And so that's why the chessboard's all the way in the back that you can't see, but it's there, I promise. And then all the way over here, I'm just like, dude. It's like layers upon layers upon layers, and it's like just so deep. And you're like, okay, cool. But they're just so proud of themselves, and you just can't help but be enthusiastic for them.
Right. I get that. I had a classmate back in school. I keep mentioning that I didn't go to film school, but it feels like I kind of did, because we made a lot of films because we had a lot of film classes. And one of my classmates, he told my friend his project, and he went on like a 10 to 15 minute, according to my friend, he went on a 10 to 15 minute conversation about what the movie is and what the theme is. And the movie is just about a killer.
Sorry. Because he is that guy. Like, and I love how, like, people in the industry parody this, and they do it so beautifully. Did you remember the TV show The Critic from, like, the 90s? It was, like, this animated TV show starring...
I think so. Is he, like, bald and he has hair on the sides?
Yeah, like Jay Sherman or whatever. That character went to film school.
Ah.
And they actually show his student film, and it's like this huge homage to like all of those art films. And he tries to do like the whole Orson Welles things with like the montage, and it's like all the symbolism and stuff, and he's like tortured and stuff. But you can tell he's like a student filmmaker. I'm like, yes, that. We all know that guy. And it's like maybe at most a 2-minute short, but he goes into like this like whole like War and Peace, like thick type novel of, description for this very, very short film.
Yeah. Also, another thing I saw on Reddit, I think it's the subreddit Filmmakers, whatever, a 19-year-old, he made a 3-hour film.
Whoa.
A 3-hour film. And I'm like, I skimmed through it, and the cinematography looks pretty good. Like, I'll admit, it looks pretty good. But I'm not going to watch a 3-hour film.
What's it about, though?
I don't know, because he said it was 3 hours, and it was like his second film. I'm like, oh man, just make this into like a web series, please. Like, release it in little bits. But yeah, he was that guy.
I mean, he could be like one of those wonder kids that's just like really, really good, and they just knock it out of the park the first time. Or he could be that guy with a lot of resources, and it's the 2-minute film. It's the director's cut. Now it's 3 hours.
All right, so who was your favorite character in the movie, and why?
So, Doug kind of bothered me because, so I was raised Catholic, and there were just, like, all these, like, weird parody stuff, and, like, I get it. It was intentionally meant to be, like, kind of bad. Mm-hmm. But my favorite character was actually Adelaide. She was there very briefly, and the effect that character had on, like, literally everything else changes the entire course of the film. And it's... going back from like a behind the scenes thing just to film her departure from the scene without spoiling too much. I would have loved to be there just to see how they did that to that actor, because just the look of abject horror on his face was just priceless. And he just like nailed shock and awe. And I'm like, yes. Because the people like, like all the texts were just like throwing things at him just to get him that reaction, because he was just doused, just completely covered. I'm
right.
It's like, that's great. And then he's just like screaming her name, and I'm like, I like her. I don't know how she showed up in Vietnam, but here we are.
Yeah, and feel free to say spoilers. You don't have to worry about. Yeah, I don't care.
Oh, hell yes. Okay.
This movie was released 4 years ago.
Oh, that's a good point. It's 4 years ago. If you haven't seen it yet, okay. Adelaide is this character who randomly shows up, who's like the love of like the other priest, Father Stephen, I think.
Yeah.
And he's basically he flashback to Vietnam, which also surprisingly looks like Pennsylvania. And he's
also looks like China.
Oh, sorry, yeah, it looks like China, which looks a lot like Korea. And talking about wanting to, settle down and have a family, and then she just magically appears in the middle of a war zone. And he's just kind of standing there, and he sees her, he calls out to her, and she starts running to him, and then she trips a trip mine that he apparently had no idea that he was standing in front of, and she just explodes, like vaporized. And he's covered like head to toe, like worse than Carrie at the end of Carrie, just completely in just like gore. And I'm like, yes, I love everything about that. And I love how she was just in the movie for literally 30 seconds, and she just, she gave it her all. I'm like, I like you. You're great.
That is a good scene. And the one that came before that is my favorite scene. I forgot his name, but the other guy that fathers Ali. Yeah. He he's like, you're gonna go and you're gonna have one kid, maybe two. You're gonna have 11 kids, and one of them you're gonna name after me, Ali, your best friend, because I'm Ali. And then you're gonna say, when you talk about your kid, about like where his name comes from, you're gonna talk about me. And then after that, you're gonna say he went through the whole war without getting hit. And then you're gonna hit them with this smile. And the part that I love is that like you're gonna give him this smile. Right. He dies right after.
And then kablam, like bullet in the chest.
No, that scene was just like out there. That's like, of all the scenes I saw, that was just the most out there and the most acknowledging. Is like the character they play as the actor playing the character. It's something I loved. I really loved that part. I don't know how to describe it too well, but I just loved that part.
Oh yeah.
And what was the other scene?
The other thing, Voltaire. Fucking Voltaire was in this movie, and I wish somebody told me that Voltaire was in this movie because I would have watched it a lot sooner. Because like I love him. So those in the know, he's this gothic cabaret singer, and he sings a bunch of ridiculous songs. Best known for his songs on the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and he usually goes to Dragon Con every single fucking year, and I love it because he does this thing where when he sings, and if he fucks up his lyrics, he'll drink. So he either does really, really well and ends up, just kind of drinks a little, or he ends up really, really shit-faced, and we're all having a good time. Regardless, it's entertaining. Right. He's a lot of fun to watch, and he also does this whole thing on YouTube called Gothic Homemaker. So he kind of does like this whole Gothic DIY Martha Stewart type thing, but it's like his version of it. So it's very over the top and just great. But had I known that he was in this movie, I would have watched it a lot sooner. I see.
Yeah. I knew who was in it, but I don't really have a familiarity with him. So I saw the cast list, like Voltaire's in this. I'm like, he has his own Wikipedia page. Oh, okay, Voltaire. Okay, yeah. Cuban dude. He looks cool.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. Like, definitely check out his music. He's pretty good.
I will check it out. So I guess he was your favorite character in the movie?
Well, I like Adelaide because of the way she exploded. But, like, as far as favorite person, I would definitely say Voltaire. Because, I mean, like, he was also playing, like, a character that was basically playing a parody of himself.
Ah, okay.
Because it's kind of like his thing. So I'm just like, oh, you're doing a parody of yourself, playing a parody of you, and this is hilarious. And, like, I was trying to figure out what he was saying when he was speaking the foreign language gibberish, and it's like half of it was, like, Spanish, and the other half was just, like, nonsense. But, like, the couple words I picked up was, like, feo. I'm like, okay, so who's ugly? And then Susia. And I'm like, oh, who's dirty? I'm like, what's going on here? I'm like, why did you choose Susia? Out of all the things, why did you choose Susia? I'm like, what were you thinking? What was going on behind the scenes where you chose that word? And I'm like, is he trying to say Mjelda? I'm not quite sure what's going on here, but like he was just going through all these different things, and I'm just like going, okay, where's this going? But I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, I didn't even try to pick it up. I was just like, this is ridiculous. I'm just gonna keep watching. But yeah, I didn't even pick that up. Feo and Susia, like what? Who's ugly and dirty?
Right, because he said blah blah blah, like El Feo, and I'm just like going, okay, so who's ugly? And then he just starts gibberish, and then all of a sudden he's just going Susia, 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 and I'm like, who is dirty? What's going on?
Yeah,
I'm like, who's the bitch?
Oh, man. So if you had a chance to ask the screenwriter, who is also the director, a question, what would it be?
What are you smoking, and can you share some? No, seriously. I kind of want to, because, okay, so apparently the story behind this was he was inspired by autocorrect on his phone, correcting Velociraptor to Veloci and Pastor. Mm-hmm. I kind of want to ask him just like, were you raised Catholic? One. And two, if you were, was this your way of basically parodying everything that we've ever, been indoctrinated with, I guess, growing up? Is this kind of like your homage love letter, but like in a very absurd way? Or is this kind of going, I ran away from that as fast as I could, and this is fun? So I'm always kind of curious about this because it's interesting seeing this in films when you have people that, are raised Catholic and they do like something that's based in Catholicism, and it has one very particular viewpoint versus somebody that is not Catholic, and they try to do something that's very Catholic, so it is either very respectful or kind of like, ooh, that's all very bad. Not necessarily like in a disrespectful way, but I'm just like, that's not how any of that works, but okay, sure. Because there was a lot of stuff in here I was just like, that's not how any of this works, but it's fine. It's a ridiculous movie, and it works with the ridiculous movie. Like, I just thought it would have been really weird if he had, like, knowing the background of the story, if he had just gone with the ridiculous story, but then like an immaculate representation of Catholicism. It just would have been like very just jarring, I think, because like the way that he did things, I was just like, what are you thinking, man? Wait, okay, but it works. It works. Like the costume design and everything. I was just like, was that like duct tape? I can't figure out what they were using for the collars. Because like there's a particular collar that you can use for like the priests. I guess habits the best way I could describe it for their shirts. And it looked like they either had like bandage tape or duct tape or something, but like the collars were like so wide apart. And I'm like, what are you doing there? And when they were doing the whole Eucharist, there was like a Ritz cracker, and I'm like, that is hilarious. It's so hilariously bad. I'm like, I love this, but yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. So I was raised Protestant, evangelical Protestant, so I have no idea how Catholics do their religion because we were always taught Catholics don't have it right. I'm not sure. Did Catholics say the same thing about Protestants? I'm not sure.
Not anymore. So talking to, like, for example, the old... everything prior to Vatican II, so everything prior to, like, 1964, 68, I don't remember the exact year, there was the whole old school fire and brimstone, like, you can socialize with them, but you can't, marry with them, you can't marry outside the church, and, you can't have, like, a King James version of the Bible in your house, blah, 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 blah. That's changed. Like, the way that I grew up, like, my father's Protestant, my mother's Catholic, so I grew up, like, in a hybrid household, so it was, like, never a big deal, growing up, and then, it's never been a big deal, knowing this as an adult, so it's kind of, like, interesting. Like, jokingly, socially, we'll kind of make jokes about stuff, but, I figure every single religion does that, Because I knew some people growing up, and they'll make jokes about Catholics, and then we'll do the same thing vice versa, Be like, yes, Protestant heathen. And they'll be like, you papist. And I'm like, nobody uses the word papist.
I don't even know what that means.
I barely know what that means.
I want to talk about a little bit more about how this movie came into being, because it's a very interesting story. And you already mentioned that he was inspired to make it because his phone autocorrected Velociraptor into VelociPastor. And as a class project, he made a short film of fake Grindhouse trailers, which included the VelociPastor. And his prior YouTube videos had around 45 views each, but this one received 45,000 views, and it got him thinking, like, maybe this could be a movie. And yeah, that's kind of like what started the conception. This was back in 2010, so 45,000 views in 2010. Even today, it's a lot of views. It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah, definitely.
45,000 people saw it, or at least one person saw it 45,000 times. But still,
it was his mom hitting refresh 45,000 times. He'll never know.
Yep, he'll never know. How would he know? He wouldn't know. He's not going to know. When he was writing it, he said he kept trying to write it because he's a film school dude who loves Bergman and Tarkovsky. And being a film buff myself, I still haven't seen those films, but I can, like we said, he was that guy.
Yeah.
And so in 2016, he thought, like, why don't I just throw it all that way, stop overthinking it, and just make it this fun movie? He later said in an interview for Forbes, if you're trying to look for deeper meaning in a man turns into a dinosaur movie, you're probably on a fool's errand.
I love how he's just so honest about it. He admits it. He's just like, this is not meant to be taken seriously. And I love how he does the thing where he's trying to tell people to not be that guy and not be the person looking for deeper meaning. Like, what was that quote in Clueless? Looking for this is like trying to search for meaning in a Pauly Shore film. Yeah, don't do it. There's no meaning. Just go with it. Just have fun with it. And I think especially with the way things are, like right now, it's fine to have something that's just fun and entertaining and ridiculous. Doesn't need meaning.
Yeah, that's what I think. So YouTube film discussion channels have kind of ruined for some people. People will watch them and then think that they know how to like critique movies. Unfortunately, they don't know how to do it. No. Like I've heard from people like how some people hated Matrix 4 and some people loved it. And the people who hated it, I've seen their critiques of the movie, and I'm just thinking, like, do you hate films in general? Because there was this one thread of this one YouTuber, right? He said, let me look this up. I'm going to look this up because this was ridiculous.
Oh, wow. That bad, huh?
It was bad. It's like, do you want them to reinvent the wheel with every film? Like, you can't do that.
Well, yeah, and I kind of feel like some do that. They're like, it has to be this and it has to be that. And they don't seem to realize that a lot of the stories that we tell are rehashings of, like, old stories from, like, way back when. Or it fits, like, a similar, I guess, module or whatever. I think it's, like, the best way I can put it. Yeah.
Okay, I screenshot it. So this guy said, the cinematography sucks. Almost the entire movie so far has just been standard shot, reverse shot dialogue scenes with standard dramatic reverse key lighting. So every movie ever.
What? So did he just like learn a bunch of like film terms and just say like, oh, it does this, so therefore I don't like that? That guy must be real fun at parties.
It's not just one tweet, it's a whole thread of him hating on the movie.
You're serious?
And this is one of those.
Oh my god,
This is just one of those. I'm gonna show you the pic that they're criticizing, and this won't be available on the podcast, unfortunately. There's no way you can see it, but it's Neil Patrick Harris, just right there. That's what they're criticizing. They said like most of the movie is shot like this.
I mean, there's a little bit of harsh shadows, but who cares? It's setting dramatic lighting for, like, the mood. So, yeah, like, was he expecting it to be, like, HDR the entire time? Which is stupid.
They want 60 FPS, man.
Yeah, that's not how it works.
No.
Lighting conveys mood, so they were trying to convey a certain mood. Okay, now I'm angry.
Well, I also want to talk about the funding for this movie. So he said that, this is Brendan Steer said, during that weird 5-year stretch between 2011 and 2016, we tried to crowdfund it twice. First through Kickstarter and then a second time through Seed and Spark. Neither one worked. We ended up eventually funding it through a private investor that my friend's mom happened to know. I just sent something over and she responded 4 days later and fully funded us. We made the whole thing for $35,000, and that is shockingly low.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And for casting the lead, he had an actor in mind to play the role of Doug Jones, but he was unavailable. So, because he had written the role for him from the get-go, but the lead had to leave for like other reasons that he for stuff that like was unavoidable. He said this: "We were briefly without a lead, and so Gregory James Cohen sent in a self-taped audition. He had been working at a crowdfunding site called Seed and Spark, which we submitted to, and I sort of begrudgingly agreed to look at the tape, and it was incredible. He got the tone of the piece immediately, and I cast him nearly on the spot. It was the best decision I made on the whole project, I think. He is the VelociPastor in almost every movie star way."
Nice. He did a wonderful job. He absolutely did a wonderful job, you know, and it's one of those things like from an actor, you can either play this one of two ways. Play it as ridiculous as possible because you know it's a ridiculous film. Over-exaggerate, be over the top, just be your inner Nicolas Cage. Or you play it super, super serious. Everything else around you is just insane, and you're just going to be like that straight guy. And I think he walks that line between over-the-top ridiculousness and seriousness, like, very, very well. So, you know, he's believable, but he's also like, oh, right, this guy gets it. He knows what he's doing. He gets that he's in this kind of film. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so he actually mentioned that it was like directing him was a sliding scale on like, should I be straight or should I be ridiculous? Because it's kind of like a medium awareness that it's like a bad movie. And so they had to like toe that line. And since Greg, who played Doug, had the most screen time, he and the director had developed a shorthand on how to dictate how to give a scene. So for some scenes it was mostly straight, and for some scenes it was just ridiculous. So whenever he's interacting with that one girl, his girlfriend, I forgot her name. Oh yeah, Carol? That was mostly straight. Yeah.
Makes sense.
And with the villains, that it was absolutely ridiculous. And you can tell. It's like a sliding scale. You can see. Your lives!
You're right. When he rips off that guy's head at the end, and he's just standing there, he's just like, ah! You know, he's got like in his head, he's like, Kalima, Kalima! Just like sitting there, like shaking it for like a good 2 minutes.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because like you see, like, okay, I need you to be honest for this one. Okay, I can be that. I need you to be Nicolas Cage for this one. Like, which Nicolas Cage? Like, which Nicolas Cage? Oh, that one movie, Con Air. Oh, I could do that.
Exactly. Like, good Nicolas Cage or good Nicolas Cage with the quoting marks.
Yeah, exactly. And so the film premiered in Portland, Oregon in 2017. They submitted it to film festivals, and it just went viral after that. And eventually they had a deal with Wild Eye Releasing in 2018, and then that's how it's mostly released in streaming and physical media. And a little bit of trivia here. They were briefly, for a moment, a political joke in Spain. So they had a general election in Spain, and one of the candidates was a far-right candidate that was given a nickname, El VelociPastor. So the movie has a new meaning in Spain.
That's amazing. How did that candidate get that nickname?
I have no idea, but, you know, I'm going to look it up. Let's look it up right now.
That's amazing. Because I'm going to start using that from now on, just randomly calling people El VelociPastor. Or just take a line from Voltaire. El feo VelociPastor.
I really hope I can find something on this. I didn't think to look it up. I was just going to take his word for it. Okay, I can't find anything right now, so I'm just going to put that in the back burner for right now.
Oh, no worries.
But yeah.
But I think it makes a great story.
Yeah.
Even if it's not true or if it's just, anecdotal or whatever, it's still funny.
So, from that same interview, from a Forbes interview from 2019, he mentioned that despite the popularity of the film, he hadn't made any money from the film. This is from 2019. This is what he said. Hopefully things have changed since then. I'm unemployed right now. I got back to Los Angeles in February. I just got a car. The VelociPastor are all blowing up and it is incredible, but I haven't seen any money from it yet. I was talking to my mom on the phone and I was like, this is weird. I'm influencing European politics, but I can't afford a Subway sandwich right now. Like I say, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So, hopefully things have changed for him since then.
Hopefully. I hope he's getting that big Netflix money. Or, sorry, Amazon Prime money. Yeah, Amazon Prime. So, hopefully they're paying him. So, if not Jeff Bezos, you guys, you seriously owe this man some money. Just saying. Pay this man.
Yeah, and also the fact that, these type of movies made Amazon Prime when they first started, too. They kind of, made up, the streaming sites when they first began. It's what's on Tubi right now, man. And they have it for free on Tubi. And now a word from our sponsors. Now back to the show.
Backdraft is a 1991 American action thriller film directed by Ron Howard and written by Gregory Wyden. The film follows Chicago firefighters on the trail of a serial arsonist. The film stars Kurt Russell, William Baldwin, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Donald Sutherland, and Robert De Niro. This movie was on Jason's list. Jason, why was this movie on your list?
I'll be honest with you, I don't remember why. When I borrowed this movie from the library, I saw it had Kurt Russell in it. And I also was borrowing The Thing, also with Kurt Russell. So it's just a nice marathon. Back to back. It was just great to see both of them. Yeah, honestly, I don't remember. It's wild, but I don't regret watching this movie.
Oh no, it's such a good movie. No, it's because you wanted the connection of the parents burning to death in the first 5 minutes, right? Except for this time, instead of saying, visual effects, you actually see the visual effects.
Yeah, definitely. And this is the visual effects here. They actually show it. They don't put a print on it. Visual effects of parents burning to death here.
Yeah, exactly. So what are your thoughts about the movie?
I really liked it. It's type of movie that I didn't think existed because most films I watch are mostly not most films, but some films I watch about catching a killer. It's usually just catching murderers or terrorists, whatever. I've never really seen a movie about catching an arsonist. And this movie kind of reminded me of, what's that movie called? It's the Hannibal movie, the first one.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So this movie reminded me a little bit of Silence of the Lambs because they had to question another arsonist on how to catch the current arsonist. I like that aspect of questioning other people how to catch people like them. And They really should have used Donald Sutherland more. He was amazing in this movie. Anything he's in, he's really good.
Oh yeah, totally.
I really liked it.
You can tell that he was trying very hard not to play the scene exactly the same way that Anthony Hopkins did in Silence of the Lambs, but you can't help but see that he was influenced by it,
Yeah.
But yeah. So, random question, going back to the first 5 minutes of that movie, what were your thoughts about that random photographer taking pictures of little, Billy Baldwin's character's name? I can't remember all of a sudden. The little boy. Yeah. Just randomly. All this stuff is happening, right? You've got a 3-alarm fire, and you've got, these firefighters just dealing with all the chaos, they're dealing with the building, and then suddenly, horrible explosion. And then there's this random photographer taking pictures of this boy as he's watching his father burn to death.
Oh, you know what? I didn't think about that. They're photographers. How do I say this without being an asshole? I don't know how to say this, but it's maybe he was a paparazzi type of photographer trying to look for the best emotional, what's the most emotional picture he could take right now. And maybe he saw that and he's oh, this kid probably had a dad who's in there and he's crying. This will sell newspapers. I don't know. I didn't think twice about that scene, to be honest, but that was kind of weird. Just all this chaos and he just took a picture of a kid. I know. I'm just it's a very Ron Howard thing to do, which, is not a problem. But I was just kind of okay, that makes sense. In today's day and age where you'd have people with their cell phones and they're recording things and you'd probably have somebody in the background screaming, "World Star!" like they do. But this was supposed to be in the 70s, so you've just got all this stuff going on. And then you have this random hippie photographer with his analog, point and shoot camera just up in this kid's face taking pictures and stuff, and a guy gets a Pulitzer Prize. I'm okay, it is a very poignant, picture. It's an amazing thing, and it's interesting how they also use it as a plot device. But I'm okay. Yeah.
Okay. Very random, but sure, let's go with it.
When you were saying, like, people today, like, they all have phones, they're already, like, recording stuff like that. Have you noticed that, like, whenever there's, like, a scene going on, there are more people using their phones than people who are participating in the event?
Yes. And that is frightening. Because, I mean, the bystander effect, to begin with, is already just kind of, you know, I don't want to say it's cringe. You know, it is cringe. It's one of those things where people are just either, you know, apprehensive to jump in, or they just don't want to jump in and get involved. But I think that filming and having the access to, like, put it on social media has made it far worse, because they're just sitting there going, I'm capturing all this, I'm totally helping this person, but they're not really. You know, it could help them, like, after the fact, but it's like, why don't you jump in and do something? Why don't you be the person holding the phone and be like, hey, fucker, I've got you on Facebook Live, I see you, stop it. You know, versus, like, World Star!
Yeah. Is World Star Hip Hop still a website?
I don't know, but I keep seeing videos, like, randomly on Twitter where you just see, like, it wasn't on the Bath & Body Works fist fight that they had a couple of months ago, but they've had a couple of, like, random fist fights, and you've got some dude in the background just screaming it. So even if it's not, like, a thing anymore, people are still screaming World Star.
It's a quintessential part of our culture, our internet culture nowadays, where if there's a fight going on and someone's recording it, you had to shout World Star, so that everyone else around you knows, oh, this is going to be on World Star, okay.
Right.
Or this will be on the internet.
Right. Well, that was the thing with that Bath & Body Works fight, was that, you know, this employee and that woman, they, like, threw down, and, like, all the employees started beating her ass, and these people were just sitting there just going, hey, just, like, recording it, and just, like, help her get that, you know, that woman out of the store. But they're just like, eh.
Yeah, I used to work at Bath & Body Works, and I don't know, I remember the video. I don't know what happened before the video, so that altercation happened, but I get it. Especially during the holidays.
Oh, God. Don't even get me started on that. I think anyone that's ever worked retail, or we're all nodding in unison right now going, yeah. Oh my God, yeah.
If I ever open a store, there's a policy where, like, if you're being rude to the customers, you can get out. But I'm not a businessman. I'm a podcaster right now.
Oh, yeah. What was your favorite scene?
It was the confrontation between Kurt Russell and the actual arsonist when they're on the roof trying to put out the fire. And then they get separated because, like, the roof collapsed, and William Baldwin falls into, like, a flooded area, and Kurt Russell and the other guy, I think they were somewhere else. I forgot the events, what really happened, because I saw this months ago, right? Mm-hmm. I saw this, like, last month or something. But that one stood out to me because Kurt Russell's character, he wants to know why his friend did this, like, what brought him to kill these men through the fires.
Right.
But yeah, that one stood out to me because it looked like William Baldwin's character was about to die, about to drown in a fire. I just thought that would have been ironic in such a poetic way.
Right.
Like, this fireman drowned in a fire.
But he didn't get killed by the fire. He died by, like, drowning, not fire. Which would have been great.
Right? It's like, bro, like, I forgot how he got out of there. He eventually got out of it.
Yeah.
And was able to, I think Kurt Russell's character died, and so did the other arsonist, right?
Yeah, because they fell onto a catwalk, and then the catwalk collapsed. And, like, the arsonist, basically, he just fell and landed on a bunch of, like, those metal drums, like those big, like, 50-gallon drums. So he just went splat right away.
Oh, yeah.
And then Kurt Russell's character, like, fell, and his landing wasn't as bad. But, you know, in the very cliche, die in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, but the fire didn't get me. Ah.
I forgot, because that was his thing. Like, he didn't want to go in for all, like, equipment, because he's like, the fire won't kill me. I'm like, that's kind of like a hazard.
Smoke asphyxiation will kill you.
Exactly. And another thing about this movie is that, like, with this type of film, of course you'll get real firefighters saying, like, oh yeah, this could never happen because of this. And I don't necessarily, like, want to say, they don't Neil deGrasse Tyson this. They actually discuss, like, what would actually happen. And they also acknowledge, like, that this is a film, and in order to make the film, they had to make it, like, get to be able to see everything, right?
Right.
There was this firefighter who said, like, there's no way to possibly shoot this with real fire because the smoke will prevent you from seeing anything at all.
Right. And that makes sense. And, you know, I just kind of feel it's also like the firefighting community where they're just like, yes, this is not how it's like, but, you know, you appreciate us even more, so it's fine. Versus some other fields are like, that's not how it's like, and I shall curse you for doing it wrong. How dare you do it wrong? This is an insult.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, like every single movie that I see that happens, like historical, like war films, You know, those are like some of the military buffs are just like, that is not right. That medal is wrong. That medal came in 1952. This happened in 1946. And I'm like, yes, we know, but just let it go. Yeah. What was it? When Space Force came out, a number of us had a field day because Steve Carell's ribbon rack he had a very spicy ribbon rack. But they're just like, how does he not know this? He literally was in that campaign.
That reminds me of actually, this just happened with Neil deGrasse Tyson, which is why I don't Neil deGrasse Tyson this, because I don't know what it is about this man, but does he not like happiness or something? Like, he wants to prove that Santa isn't real to adults or something. I'm not sure if you're on Twitter, but he says, like, in order to travel this many distance to deliver all these packages, whatever, to children, you'd have to be at this certain speed and hit everything at this right exact time. Yada, yada, yada. And it's not just a one-time thing. He does this every year. And this year was particularly annoying because he said, like, if you leave vegetables out for Santa, maybe he wouldn't be so fat. I'm like, bro.
Dude.
What? Come on. Get over it.
Well, I mean, Neil deGrasse Tyson's got he's PhD in physics. I will say from my experience, because my background, for those in the know, is actually neuroscience, so PhD in neuroscience, and having worked with a bunch of physicists. Those are some of the most soulless, joyless people. Not all of them, obviously, but there are quite a few of them where they're just like that. And it's like, okay, just let the people have fun. And I'm like, do you not know the story behind the whole NORAD Santa tracker? Because the only reason why it happened is because it was of a misprint in the advertisement to call Santa. So they ended up calling NORAD without even knowing it. And they could have been like really rude and be like, oh, go away, kid. This isn't Santa. But they decided to be really good about it and like actually treat these kids. So it's just like, let the kids have their joy. Let them have some of that childhood. Let the adults that want to still have a little tiny grasp of magic still have that tiny grasp of magic. You don't need to be like, we're nothing but space dust and nothing matters. Like, you can do that in your academic career, Neil. Just like chill, you know? But from what I understand, from some of the people I know that have met him, that's not a deviation from his character at all. He's like that. Same
thing happens with people who watch films. I've mentioned this before quite a few times where I was watching The Mummy once with some friends in a hotel because we were like kind of pre-gaming before a party. And this one dude who I wasn't too particular about, but then I immediately hated after he said this. This is towards the end of The Mummy. Actually, this is the end of The Mummy. Brendan Fraser is fighting off the other mummies with a sword, and Evie's right there. She's chained up, and he's trying to like rescue her. And, you know, people around us, we're all having a good time. You know, we're all eating pizza, watching this pre-gaming. And this dude says, I've said this, if you listen to this podcast, you'd already know this. He said, those type of swords look more like Roman swords. They don't look like Egyptian swords. I love The Mummy. It's one of my favorite films. I know it can be, I know it's not everyone's type of film, but for that to be the reason why it's not your type of film, I was just like, the slowest think I could ever give to him. He didn't see me. I didn't make a big deal of it because we're all trying to have fun. But because there's two things that are like that you need to acknowledge this. I wanted to say this to him. Two things. One, Egypt and Rome had regular contact with each other. They're like right across the Mediterranean from each other, right?
Yeah.
They had wars with each other. They traded with each other. They even had like Carthage in like the Roman War, like all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So it makes sense that their weapons would have crossed over or they would have influenced from each other, right? Two, it's a movie about a fucking mummy, and you're looking for a deeper meaning within like the accuracy of the swords. The swords. You didn't mention like, oh, why does this mummy have this certain power and not this or whatever. You didn't say anything about the logistics of the story. You mentioned the sword. Suspend your disbelief, dude, for just a fucking second.
You know, that's the type of person that's just looking for reasons to be unhappy and just to be miserable.
Of course.
Because, I mean, you can continue that, you know, that whole argument and that, okay, have you not heard of Alexander the Great? He was Macedonian, you know, Macedonian Greek.
Exactly,
They took over and they ruled Egypt, so the pharaohs were, you know, Macedonian Greeks. Did you not hear that the Romans actually took over Egypt? Like, sometime later, after the, you know, Cleopatra basically fell, her and Mark Antony, you know, Rome took over, and Augustus incorporated part of the Roman Empire. Yeah. So, of course, they would have Roman swords. But not to mention, they're dealing with a bunch of archaeologists, you know. As far as I'm concerned, he could have had, like, a bottle of Bud Light and could have been, like, smashing mummies with them, and I don't care. It was entertaining. Who cares?
Exactly.
Just, like, have the fun with it. Yeah, I bet that guy's real fun at parties. Just saying.
Oh, man.
Your favorite character. Who was your favorite character?
I think you could tell just because I saw this right after watching The Thing, and it had to be Kurt Russell's character because he played Kurt Russell. I never really understood why people liked him, but I don't understand it either. I guess it's just like his presence in the film. It just elevates the film a little bit. He brings something. I don't want to say he carries the film because there are a lot of great actors in this movie. There's Jennifer Jason Leigh, there's Donald Sutherland, and Robert De Niro. Even though he's billed on this movie, he's not in it as much as you might think he is.
Right.
But he's also great in this movie. But Kurt Russell, he was really good. He was really good. I liked it. I liked him right here. And I it's crazy because like I'm not saying his character's name. I just liked him because it's Kurt Russell, you know?
Right.
And it's fine. It's fine. He brought it to this movie. He brought it.
Yeah. He was really good. He was excellent. And you're right, he was playing Kurt Russell, and he's one of those guys that, you know, gets cast to play himself, essentially, or that persona, but he's so good at it. Same thing with De Niro. De Niro plays himself. And it's funny, though, because, like, De Niro is supposed to be, like, a method actor, but I'm like, dude, you're always you. Like, literally, you're always you. But it's fine, you know?
Who was your favorite?
I can't remember the name of the character that William Baldwin played, but, like, for me, it's like, he's my favorite Baldwin. So I'm just like, okay, I really like you, and, you know, you had this whole sad boy thing going, but it was it was a very interesting foil to Kurt Russell's character. So it was interesting how they were very similar, but also, like, very different, and how they were able to play off of each other. And it was weird because I remember watching this when I was a kid, and until I rewatched it recently, I thought that Kurt Russell's wife in the movie, Helen, and Jennifer Jason Leigh's character were like the same person because Rebecca De Mornay and Jennifer Jason Leigh just look very similar. So just like, what's going on here? Like, I was a kid, so like I wasn't really paying as much attention. Like, I would pay attention during the fire scenes and the explosions because that was interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
But then, like, you know, the exposition and stuff, I was just like, oh, whatever, blonde lady talking to that guy. Okay, blonde lady talking to that guy. And not making the connection that they're two different people. So that was nice. I'm like going, oh, that clears that up. Okay, my bad.
So what's interesting is that Brian, that was his character's name, Brian.
Brian, right. Okay.
So other actors who auditioned for the role were Robert Downey Jr., Brad Pitt, and Keanu Reeves. And I think any of them could have played this role as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the decision they did with William Baldwin.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think Keanu Reeves would have brought something very different just based on how he delivers lines. Don't get me wrong, I love him to death, but, you know, he has a very distinct delivery. Brad Pitt, like, that wasn't his time to shine yet. You know, he was just, like, breaking out, and if I remember correctly, because this was 1991.
Yep.
He didn't make his breakthrough yet, and he was actually dating Christina Applegate at the time. So he was kind of like this background, you know, unimportant extra person, and then he just makes it big later on, you know, and then you see him, like, in Legends of the Fall and, like, Interview with the Vampire. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting take. And another movie that I'd seen that probably came out around the same time as well was, like, Point Break. I don't remember what...
Yes, Point Break with Swayze.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, that's another movie I really like because of the characters in there, because of the actors who played them. And my favorite character in that Point Break was definitely Patrick Swayze.
Oh, yeah. It's like hands down.
Just like the dynamic between with Reeves and Swayze. I'm not sure if you remember the scene where like Patrick Swayze's character forces Keanu Reeves' character to Johnny Utah, I forgot.
Yeah.
Johnny Utah to like rob the bank with them.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't rob a bank, man. I'm an FBI agent. And he's like, I know, man. It's great, right? That was the best scene.
Oh, God. Let's see. Favorite characters. Was there any scenes that like stood out to you, and like in particular that you're just like, this was an amazing piece of like cinematography, or something that was just like wildly entertaining?
Just the fires, like just seeing them, it was just really interesting to see. And I know they weren't realistic because like the firefighter who like I saw on Wikipedia who also had a book about it.
Oh, wow.
There's no possible way to like film something realistic or even attempt to do it because the smoke will be in the way. You wouldn't be able to see anything. But just seeing like all the like them going into the buildings that are filled with fire and trying to put it out. I think it was like the first one that like came out. Not the first one, but the first scene where Ryan and Kurt Russell's character they start working together and they had to go into the building and he's trying to like get the valve open so they can get the water out or whatever, get to put the hose in within the building. That one was like really stressful like to watch, like because you can see like their lives are in danger as they're trying to like put out the fire. And he also goes out to like find the woman who he hears screaming. He accidentally saves a dummy.
Oh, yeah.
So that was one of my favorite. And yeah, that was a really good scene right there. The fact that that picture was taken, they were apparently the dummy and the woman were wearing the same clothes. And he was credited as saving the woman, even though he didn't save the woman.
Hey, it works.
And it was used in his favor to get another job. Also, that scene where, like, they're at the party.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I'm remembering correctly, but, like, he punches the guy who's seeing his ex-wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I was like, yep, I love that. Confrontation, man. Confrontation.
Exactly. Like, it's so tropey and so cliche from, like, that time. It's just, you know, the wife is like, I can't do this anymore. I just have to move on because everything about you is dangerous. And then she sees somebody else and it's just like, oh, I'm going to beat the shit out of this guy. And it still doesn't work out in the end. So it's just like, aw, that's so sad. But, like, I don't know, that was entertaining and fun.
Also, the fact that his character lived in a boat.
Yeah.
Inland.
I know, I'm just like, why do you have, like, this tiny little, like, fishing boat, like, in the middle of, like, the beach or something, and it's not, like, in a marina, that you're gonna destroy that boat? What is going on here? They're just like, it was Dad's boat.
Yeah, that was nice to see, like, just whenever he was at the boat. And it looked like a parking lot, too. Like, what are you doing?
Right, random parking lot boat in the middle of Chicago. I'm like, do they, like, I know for a fact Chicago has a bunch of marinas, both, like, on the, lake, on the lake,
mm-hmm.
and also near the river.
Right.
And, you know, also on land, because they have places where you can, like, park your boat and stuff. But, like, why is this in the middle of a random parking lot? Like, there were some things about the movie that were just, like, they were just funny, but not intentionally. And I was just like, this is great.
Definitely. Also, I wanted to give, like, a little definition for the word backdraft, because I didn't know this before coming into this movie, but a backdraft is an explosive surge in a fire produced by the sudden mixing of air with other combustible gases. And that's how the serial arsonist killed the other men in this film, was by having a backdraft. And whenever they open a door, they will die.
Oh, wow.
Because of the explosion. Kind of crazy that a firefighter was an arsonist. Kind of crazy.
That was an interesting plot twist. However, you know, I like the direction that they took it. It's just like, oh, well, he's using fire to make a point, but he's trying to not really actually really hurt anyone or really kill anyone, just make a point. I'm like, okay, I see where you're going with this. From a storytelling standpoint, I think that's actually a very interesting plot twist, and we'll go with it. But I don't know. Like, they kind of treat fire like a living entity in this movie, and I'm kind of like, okay.
Oh, yeah.
But as far as plot twist goes, like, I think that was good.
That was something I was kind of suspecting that one of them was an arsonist, but I didn't suspect that the guy who was saved by the father would be one of them to be the guy. But yeah. Pretty interesting right there. So as far as like the production that went into this film, so they used rubber cement from Petronio shoe products to create some of the fire effects, and Industrial Light and Magic created many of the visual effects. So they're the company behind, I think it's George Lucas's company that helped make Star Wars.
Yep.
So that was really interesting for me to hear about it. But yeah, so the music here in the film was scored by Hans Zimmer, one of my favorite musicians there. And for those of you who don't know, I'm in the 1% of his top listeners on Spotify.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah. I really like the Batman vs. Superman soundtrack.
He's made some really good, like, soundtracks.
He's done a lot of great work. Like Prince of Egypt, Inception, the Dark Knight trilogy.
Gladiator.
Yeah, Gladiator too, and Dune.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of great stuff. The music also features 2 songs by Bruce Hornsby, which is The Show Goes On and Set Me in Motion. As for accolades, so this is very interesting. So it received 3 Academy Award nominations for sound effects editing, visual effects, and best sound. Unfortunately, it lost all of them to Terminator 2.
I mean, like, you've got the, like, cutting edge, I want to say, like, first or second generation, you know, computer effects with, with the T-1000 versus all the practical effects. And that's kind of hard to compete with because, like, the T-1000 was, like, very, very cutting edge, very new. It's like, whoa, this is so cool. I feel like if it was any other year, Backdraft probably would have gotten it.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was kind of hard to go against Terminator 2 at the time.
Like, they're both very good films, and they both make great effects with, like, the stuff. Backdraft was also made with computer effects as well.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but also, how do I say this? Like, I wouldn't say I'm disappointed. Like, I understand why Terminator 2 won, but I also kind of wish, like, there was something else that they won. You know, Backdraft won for something. because it's a really good movie.
Right.
And it's so popular, in fact, that they made a theme park attraction at Universal Studios.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's at Universal Studios Japan. It used to be at Hollywood, based on the film. And so the one in Hollywood, they replaced it with the Transformers one. So it's not there anymore. They replaced it back in 2010, 2011, around that time. But it's still available at Universal Studios Singapore and Japan. So, yeah.
Nice.
Just so if you guys find yourselves in Singapore or Japan, just go to this attraction. I'm not sure what it's like. But
I don't know.
it's based on a good movie, so you should go watch it.
It'll be fun. Be a nice special effects fire show. Just sit there and feel the heat.
Yeah. Wait, have you ever been to a Six Flags stunt show?
Not on the East Coast, but back in Texas, yeah.
Oh, did they have like a fire or like a flamethrower in there?
They always have a thing where something explodes and you've got like a stuntman just jumping off the top. They always do like a major pratfall. And they're like, oh.
Okay.
And it's always something like featuring a soundstage, and they just do all this stuff that we're all just kind of like used to seeing, and everyone's like, oh, it's amazing.
I've seen it a couple of times over here because I live like 20 minutes away from the closest Six Flags here.
Nice.
And if I remember correctly, they do have that. And there's also this thing where like they go inside one thing and then like a huge flame just like gets out, whatever. It's like a huge flamethrower just like releases a lot of like a fire. I'm always in like the back because I don't like sitting up front.
Yeah.
I could feel the heat from the back.
Oh, wow.
It was like, whoa, that is extremely hot.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, dangerous. It's a stunt show, so you can't expect that.
That's true.
Is there anything else you want to discuss? Like any other final thoughts you had on Backdraft?
They have a sequel. A direct-to-video sequel.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Like, I haven't seen it yet. Like, what are your thoughts? Because you know how sequels can go. They're either amazing or good.
Well, this one was direct-to-video.
Right.
And it doesn't have Kurt Russell because, you know, he dies. But I don't want to see it because it was made... First one was 1991, and the sequel was made in 2019. It was released in 2019 and on direct-to-video format. And William Baldwin and Donald Sutherland return playing like the same roles. So maybe there's some redeeming quality in there because Donald Sutherland's in there.
Right.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I gotta wonder how that's going, because it's like, you'd hope he'd be like a captain at this point, you know, like a fire chief, doing some like amazing things. But also, wouldn't he be like closer to retirement or something? I don't know. Like,
he should be.
Like, it would be very interesting. But like, I think a part of me wants to see it just out of morbid curiosity, but another part is just kind of like going, do I really want to spoil everything? Because I'm like, this is such a good standalone film.
Right.
That there's no reason for a sequel.
Definitely. And with this, the second one, he should be closer to retirement because by that time it's like 28 years later.
Right?
Yeah. I don't know. You know what? I don't want to see it. I'm curious to how it goes. I'm gonna read like the synopsis, but I'm not gonna go see it.
Yeah. Okay. I totally respect that.
Are you gonna see it?
Probably not. I'm not going to go out of my way to see it. If I happen to be sitting down and it's on HBO, I'm not going to get out of my way to change the channel. But I'm also not going to get out of my way to like put it on either, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. If it happens to be on and you're nearby, okay, watch it.
Right.
All right, so that's the end of our discussion today. Thank you so much for being here. Truly appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. This was a blast.
Thank you. You're a great conversationalist. I like talking to you about this. Backdraft, the sequel, and VelociPastor. Just saying VelociPastor makes me laugh. So let me ask you, were the movies a hit or a miss with you?
Definitely a hit. I remember liking Backdraft when I was a kid, and it's nice watching it again through like the lens of like an adult eye, so it's definitely a hit. It's definitely a good movie. VelociPastor is good for all the different reasons. It's so bad, it's good. Let's just put it that way. I
agree with you there. I didn't expect to like VelociPastor as much as I like it. And Backdraft was an immediate hit for me. Like Kurt Russell, amazing. Donald Sutherland, he's not in it as much, but amazing. Robert De Niro, same. William Baldwin, yeah, he's pretty good. But yeah, both movies were a hit for me as well. So where can we find you on social media? You can find me mainly on Instagram. So Instagram.com/Localicious. I have my own website that I just launched to feature all of my projects in a nice location. So it's alinavolkova.com, and it leads to everything else that I do, including the CosplayCast podcast, which is... I need to finish editing and release because I'm bad at that. And then you can see my other antics and other involvements within the cosplay community. She does a lot of great stuff on Instagram. I like her. You do like Model Monday, and I'm not a model, but it's nice to hear like how it is like to be a model and how to like have a career in it.
Thanks.
Appreciate the info dumps on Model Mondays. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Jason Ramirez, and you've been listening to the Hit List Podcast. And until next time, cross off a new film from your list. Thank you for listening to the Hit List Podcast. If you liked this episode, please consider giving us 5 stars and leaving a review. It really does help. You can also follow us on Facebook at The Hit List Podcast and Instagram at _hitlist_podcast.